So, okay, and it is, I believe it's recording, so we can try and do it. So, I guess we should get this started then.
Let's get this shambles underway.
Oh God, yes, this is going to be a complete shambles. This is, So to cut a long story short, because we've not really been able to get together because of obvious reasons, me and the rest of the Dark Matter crew has decided to basically do what we've been meaning to do for the last, well, let's just say 7 years, because we were originally planning on doing this when we started doing this channel, didn't we?
Yeah, we just never got round to it. We got carried away doing, reactions, animations, and other boring stuff no one's interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how interested people are going to be in this, but now we've actually had some time when we've been, some free time, let's say, for the next couple of months.
Years.
Well, yeah, hopefully it doesn't become years. We can actually get round to doing this
Since
podcast.
we got bugger all else to do.
Yeah, I mean, there is that, I suppose. So,
For those viewers and listeners who don't know who, I think we should introduce ourselves.
Right, okay. Starlight Flux.
Skyband.
And Tip Top.
Right. Okay, well, let's say, we could probably...
Where do we begin?
Well,
what the hell have we been doing?
Well, yes, what the hell have we been doing? Because basically...
Where have we been?
Well, okay, so basically, to cut a long story short, before this crisis happened, I basically was focusing on getting a car ready. Basically, I found an MG... TF as a sort of barn find in someone's garage that had been and I was planning on doing it up so I could actually do a road trip with one of my mates, Jake, or Gloomy as you may hear.
For our American listeners, an MG it's a sort of classic British sports car.
Yeah, and basically I was doing it up with my dad so I could basically take a trip to Germany to go to Garlic on it with my mate Gloomy.
Contrary to what wheeler dealers may have taught you, his dad is not Ed China.
No, my dad is not Ed China. Who the hell is Ed China?
You've not watched Wheeler Dealers. That's shocking.
Well, no.
Continue.
But yeah, basically, we were able to do it up, and we had just got the bloody thing sorted out and got it up here, right? And it's taxed and everything. And it's up in my flipping house now. Because that's another thing that's happened. Basically, me getting a new... the last thing I basically mentioned on the channel, I think, was me getting a new house. In fact, it was in the last one of the last videos I posted. And
we have recorded reaction in that new place.
Yeah, I mean, we have recorded reactions. But the thing is, we've kind of been... I've been focused on getting that done because I thought I was going to be going to Garlicon this year. And it turned out I didn't need to worry and I didn't need to get... Well, I suppose I did want to get it done because if I hadn't got it done before then, my dad would have probably ended up doing more work on it than I did because I actually did want to work on the damn thing and actually learn how the damn thing works. So it felt like a more of an achievement when I actually drove there to Garlicon. I was planning on vlogging this for the channel, and I mean seriously doing it this time because I don't normally get it round to doing them, but this is generally something that I think people would find interesting. This trip,
to be fair, with regards to BronyCon back in 2017, that was technically my fault. He gave me all the footage, and then I just left it sitting there.
Well, and to be honest, I think the reason why I kind of never got round to doing the footage of the last BronyCon was because basically I had just got back from BronyCon and then started doing, I got a call from my folks basically saying, oh yeah, by the way, we've actually found this place that we think we want you to see while you've got some time off. Because I had a week off after got back. So literally the week after BronyCon last year, the last BronyCon, I was actually going around and viewing a house. And basically I spent pretty much the rest of that year basically sorting out the house. So that's why I never got round to doing it, because and I'm sure anyone will understand that moving into actually getting a mortgage is like a big bloody thing. So it was like, I mean, I had some help from my parents, don't get me wrong, because they've gone through it before and they helped me out.
It's yeah. I mean, if you think trying to sort everything out to go off to university is a big deal.
Yeah. This is on another level. I mean, the folder for this is fucking massive, basically. And the thing is, with my parents helping me through it, it was a good thing they did, because to be honest, there was some times when you would have to be on call for longer than I could do if I was at work. I did actually.
Can I just jump in to say that could we maybe move back to the actual where the hell have we been rather than the discussions of mortgages and.
Going to go off on a tangent.
The point I was more getting at is this is the reason why we've been basically we haven't been uploading stuff, and that's more along the lines of where the hell have we been,
Yeah.
So
we've all had things going on. That's been your main thing, obviously, Flux. What about you, Skybound? What's been going on in the last few months for you that the viewers haven't seen or heard about? You started cycling a lot.
Well, I started cycling last year. In fact, it would have been almost exactly a year ago at this point, because I got my bike in. Actually, no, it would have been over a year, because I got my bike in March of last year. So I've been cycling to work since then. But obviously, since the recent lockdown, I haven't really had that much excuse to cycle.
You should have been able to still cycle, locally.
Indeed.
Yeah, I need to get into doing that again, because I used to cycle to and from work for my current residence until I got my car, and I'm planning on doing it still. But
yeah, in a way, it's a time of regret for me, because of course I got rid of my bike. I sold it to one of you guys.
Yeah, and I'm sorry about that, but basically, it was all right as a bike. It was. Let's just put it this way.
No, I just mean it's now is. I wish I still had it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've been cycling around my village. I've also very recently, as in like yesterday, discovered that the kind of woodland trail that goes around my village is actually brilliant for mountain biking. So both yesterday and today, which is Easter Sunday, just for context, I've been riding around that, getting outside, getting my government mandated daily exercise.
Yeah, for our American listeners, that is the rule that's been established here in the UK, is that you are allowed to go out for shopping, medicine, and work and
what form of exercise.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I need to start doing that again, because to be honest, I have let it slip, because the thing is for me, is I've actually been working from home. And the thing is, things have been as busy as ever, because I work in the medical, aspect of things, because I work for a medical software company. And as you can imagine, in this particular scenario, while it may have not been something I have to directly involve myself with, there's been knock-on effects, because certain people we need to get access to haven't always been there, so I've had to work a bit longer than usual.
In fairness,
yeah.
I mean, in fairness, at least you have the option of working from home, because you work in medical software. I work in manufacture of medical hardware, so I have to go into work.
Yeah, I know. So it sounds like we've both been somewhat affected by that in some form of acid. I mean, at least we've still got a job to go to. At least
that is true. It's something to be grateful for.
I am grateful that I have got a job to at least still go to.
Anyway, before we get too far, back to you, Skybound. Sorry.
Yeah.
Back to the studio.
So as well as sort of cycling for my government mandated exercise, I've also been doing more running, which, as it turns out, is a lot harder than cycling. So that's been fun, learning that, oh my god, I can't run for the life of me. I think the longest distance I've managed is 5 miles without stopping, and I was exhausted afterwards. But
I would hate running 5 miles. I'd hate running 5 feet.
And what else have I been doing? Oh yeah, I've been learning Russian for no real reason other than I'm bored. I want to learn a language.
Oh, for no real reason.
No, as much as I regret to say it, I am not in fact a Russian bot. So I won't be influencing any elections this year.
That reminds me, I need to pick up German again because basically
there's a red spy in the base.
The spy is French.
Hang on, yeah, the spy is French.
Red, you know.
No, hang on a minute, hang on. Don't you mean the heavy?
Spy.
Don't you mean the heavy?
No, I mean red spy.
Oh, right, because the heavy isn't he Russian?
Oh
or
yeah,
something?
red. No, red as in Soviet. I get it.
Oh god.
Communist. As in comrade.
I'm actually kind of surprised at you, Skybound. I'd have thought if you were going to learn any language because you were bored, it would be Japanese.
Okay, so
You're a fucking weeb.
let me tell you something. Why the heck would I need to learn Japanese when if I go to Japan, I'll just put the subtitles on?
Yes, because Japan totally always has subtitles.
It does. That's just the thing, you know. All of my anime has subtitles, therefore all of Japan has subtitles. It's called logic. That aside, I've also been doing more cooking. I made some hot cross buns this weekend.
Ooh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, I basically.
Yes.
I mean, the thing is, I've also been doing cooking as well.
I made some eggs.
Hang on a minute. Hang on, guys. I basically made some.
Eggs.
Dude, listen. I basically did a full slow cooker meal yesterday. I have, you know. Also, I basically. Yeah, I was able to get hold of some stuff from Morrison's. However, it was one of these standard packs, sort of like Morrison's out like a supermarket in the UK, and we were able to get a delivery of essentially a ration box, essentially.
Oh yeah, they're doing those essentials boxes now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Again, for context, for our viewers kind of outside the country, this essentials box is essentially about 30 or 35 pounds, and it's basically just a box of assorted food and toiletries, essentially.
But the thing is, you get toilet roll in it.
Hey?
You get toilet roll in it. I've had a couple. You actually have a toilet roll in it.
Yeah, how do you feel now, hoarders? You could have just asked for some.
I mean,
somewhere in the world there's just a hoarder just sitting behind a fort made of toilet rolls.
A toilet roll fort.
Made out of toilet paper and hand sanitizer bottles.
Yeah, but soap's better than hand sanitizer. That's the bloody thing. Soap actually does more damage to coronavirus than flipping hand sanitizer.
No, amateurs. No, battery acid. That's
yeah, but that kills everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't catch a respiratory disease if you haven't got lungs.
Oh dear God.
This
No,
is
but that's like saying you can't die if you're already dead.
Yeah, that's the point.
But yes. Okay, so let's see. Russian, cooking, biking, running. Yeah. Apart from that, I've been doing my work from home as well. Of course, much like Skybound, I work for a
Skybound. You mean Starlight?
company.
You mean Starlight?
That's the one. Yeah.
You're
Starlight
Flood.
Much like Skybound, I work for software.
Yes, well, technically it's true. It's self-referential, and it's speaking in third person.
This is the thing with you two working from home. Cabin fever is really setting in if you're.
Oh God, yes, cabin fever is probably definitely setting. I mean, thank God I've got it outdoors. Thank God.
One of the advantages of being stuck inside like this, though, is that I've got really good at Beat Saber.
Oh yeah, because I've been really getting good at Sonic Mania. Because I've been really I've been trying to get I was trying to get hold of the Chaos Emeralds in the special stages for that, and it's I could never bloody do it. And I've actually managed to at least get 3 of the damn things this bloody weekend. And it's like...
Now is a really good time to be a gamer, basically.
Yeah, it really is.
Meanwhile, cries in non-gamer.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's like that meme where we've seen, like, basically... Oh, God, what was that image? It was basically that one of basically normal people crying their eyes out. Gamers basically laughing their heads off, basically, because it's like we've been planning for this for years.
Yeah, we've been training our whole lifetimes for this.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm just remembering this sort of cringy kind of gamer, like those sort of cringy gamer memes that talk about, oh, we gamers, you know, when shit gets tough, we deal with it because we've beaten Dark Souls and stuff like that. It's just like, I'll deal with you. Cringy bullshit. But anyway, before I go off on another tangent, what has your time been like in quarantine?
Dear Princess Celestia.
Oh God. Quarantine. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So, well, my time in quarantine hasn't been quite so confined because, as I said, I work in the manufacturing sector, so I have to go into work. I have been given the option of coming home for slightly reduced pay, but I don't really want to because that, you know, I live on my own. My co-workers are the only people I see outside of them, you know, and I don't want to give up that company, even if half of them I can't freaking stand.
Yeah, I can understand.
You get a new appreciation. You realise how much for granted with all this going on. But no, in the meantime, life at home has actually been largely unchanged. I've just been, you know, I've just been surfing around on YouTube until the wee hours of the morning, like I wasn't doing that before. I mean, obviously, my big passion is to build fighting robots, and that's still just been steadily chugging along. My only slight hindrance has been that all of the hardware stores have been closed, so it's very difficult to get hold of materials and tools.
Well, my problem is even worse than that, though.
I've been able to persevere and, you know, I've got loads and loads of little bits of leftover stuff lying around the house that I've never had a use for until now. And I acquired a welder for Christmas, so there's a chance that I might be able to actually start using it for once, even if it's for just practice.
Well, the thing is, I've been trying to get around to... I mean, I did manage to get some of the work done on Blue Moon. The robot.
By the way, we'll probably viewers will probably put pictures of our creations in case you were interested, because we build battle robots and fight in sort of local regional tournaments and so forth. And
I mean, I've got
coming up now is a picture of Starlight Flux's small robot Blue Moon.
Oh yes. Let's just say it's. You know, when you say, what weapon does it have? And my answer is basically yes, because it basically has...
all the weapons.
It doesn't have all of the weapons. We haven't been able to get a spinner in there yet, but we probably won't get one.
They do say that the best form of offense is... the best defense is offense.
Yeah, but this is more of a case of we've been trying to find a way of getting this damn thing to be, let's say, effective, because... let's just put it this way, you should have our videos of it.
Just to sort of drag things back a little bit. So I've been keeping myself occupied with the bots to a certain extent from whatever materials I can find. I mean, obviously all of the events across the country have been postponed as well as a result of all this lockdown. But if anything, it just gives me more of a chance to refine what I've already got and repair. I mean, honestly, the biggest pain to me is not being able to get hold of new material. It's not being able to get hold of more paint. Just because.
Oh God, yeah.
I am an absolute master. Like, having worked in manufacture for the last 7 years, I am an absolute master at covering shitty welding with copious amounts of paint.
Well, are you saying your workplace does shitty welding?
No, I'm saying I do shitty welding.
Yeah, I've been I was planning on doing some touching up of my Ocellus cosplay today, and then it started drizzling a little bit, so I'm probably going to end up having to do that tomorrow. But I have actually found some paint and some decorator's cork to deal with some of the, let's say, cracks that appeared in the Ocellus head, because it was... So yeah.
But
So,
yeah, I mean, the only other thing really I can say about my home life is that the only other thing really is that has happened in the last couple of days or weeks is I've had to basically strip the entire house to its bare bones to try and deal with an ant infestation that came along at the back end of last week. But I think I've got that sorted.
Oh, thank God for that.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, because those little things could be a little bit of a. Let's put it this way. I remember what.
They haven't been destructive in it, but God, they're annoying.
Oh God, yeah, I know. Because thankfully it hasn't happened here. But when I was at my previous
you managed
place,
to kill them. You managed to get rid of them.
I think I managed to get rid of quite a lot of them. But they were pretty much all over the mantelpiece. It's like I would move things and there'd be entire
But you forget I live in a much smaller house than you. My front room and my kitchen are all one room.
Oh yeah, that's a good point actually. And you've got a kitchen there as well, so I suppose they could eat.
That's what I'm saying. My front room and my kitchen are all one room, so.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm trying to keep them away. It's been a matter. I've been vacuuming 3 or 4 times a day to make sure that I'm keeping the place completely spotless. It only takes so much as a drop of spilled fruit juice or a crumb of bread to land on that carpet, and next thing you know, they're swarming back in again immediately.
Yeah, I know that.
I never figured out where they were coming from. I've just seen them crawling around on the carpet. I never actually found out where they were coming from or how they got in or what was attracting.
I don't know. You just can't tell with those things.
I mean, it seems to have stopped for now. If I wake up one morning and they're all over me, then I'll work.
But at that point, it's basically kill it with fire, pretty much at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say
napalm that shit.
I've got a couple of spare lithium polymer batteries lying around, or as we in the robot fighting trade call them, grenades.
Yeah, they're pretty much grenades. I almost broke one of those damn things.
Well, what happens?
Oh yeah, I know because I almost broke one of those things.
When a lipo battery gets damaged.
Yeah, I know because basically I almost caused a potential lipo one of a grab from the fence, and the thing is that had a wooden floor.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Well, maybe we should before. I think we've kind of all addressed what we've,
One more thing I did want to say, that I kind of remembered when you mentioned that a lot of events had been postponed, kind of in passing. But actually that did remind me that I was due to go to a couple of events this year in the next couple of months. And both of them were at Bovington Tank Museum, which is down in the south of England. It's a really awesome tank museum.
Let me guess. Was one of them a Sabaton concert?
No, actually. One of them was a weekend event called Tank Fest, and it's basically kind of a big
tank driving display. Isn't it?
It's essentially a convention, really. It has tank events. It's hosted by the people who make World of Tanks, and it's
so a bit like. So a bit like Andrew, a bit like Oily Valves with his railway convention.
I guess you could kind of think of it more like kind of a, well, really, I suppose when you go into like these race days and stuff like that, when you can like walk around the pits, see the
right, yeah, I know,
the hangars and stuff like that. It's kind of like that, except with tanks instead of cars, because that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, I mean,
one of the other events that I was going to go to also at Bovington was called Tiger Day, which is essentially where they have the only operational Tiger 1 tank, Tiger 131, basically driving around, and you do also have the opportunity to kind of potentially win a ride in it. There's also kind of
that's going to be special. That's going to be special if it's the only working one left in the world.
Yeah, it's super rare, and it's definitely something that I.
It's like for any aeroplane enthusiasts out there. That's like having a flight in one of the only 2 Lancaster bombers left on the planet.
Well, it's basically something that's really kind of special, but unfortunately that's been postponed until later this year as well. I find it quite funny actually that both of my events that have been postponed involve tanks, especially at this time, because of course, right now everyone seems to be going on about Tiger King, where on my mind all I've got is King Tigers.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Tiger
The
King.
tanks, yeah.
Tank joke, but
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember on a slightly, it's a tiny bit.
Oh, there is something else I've just
I was
remembered.
reading on
I've just remembered there is something else that I've also had delayed. I was actually going to go to the Le Mans Classic in the car that I just got built up to actually take part in one of the parade laps with my dad, essentially. And that's been postponed as well. So, yeah, I think there's been quite a few things postponed and moved back. So
we're both missing out on seeing classic vehicles.
Yeah, pretty much.
But just on the on the tanks thing, I remember there was a news article I remember reading a couple of months back. Apparently, the army are considering investing in making all new tanks that go into combat now electric, along with everyone's trying to push for electric cars. Apparently, the army are investing a huge amount of money now into developing electric tanks for the battlefield. And I just think, what happens if the battery runs out in the middle of a combat zone?
That's a good question.
You can't just. There's not going to be a Tesla charging point.
It won't be made by Tesla, though, will it? Because
they'll just have to pop up a tiny little solar charger on the roof any minute now. Any minute.
I mean, maybe it's because my mind is stuck in the past, but my memory of electronics being used in tanks all come from Germany's tanks, which weren't very reliable.
Wait, hang on a minute. That wasn't. They're not very reliable. I thought Germans were good for known for their reliability.
No.
German tanks were reliable. If German tanks were reliable, how come they lost?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
One thing I would point out is I can't remember whether on. Yeah, we watched Girls and Panzer, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So there's a joke in that about when they've got this Tiger 1, when they found this Tiger 1, and they've just fixed it up, and they literally drive it about 5 feet. It immediately gets dug into the mud, and then the engine catches fire. That's German tanks in a nutshell.
Yeah, I will say that.
So why are Germans so well known for good reliability then? Is it just since the war?
It's different sector.
Yeah,
I would say on the whole electric tanks thing, though, I can understand that even the army might want to try and become a bit more environmentally friendly and everything like that. But it's a tank, for God's sake. Like, how can you be worried about what the pipe at the back is doing when there's depleted uranium explosives coming out of the pipe at the front?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, tank combat is going to be one of those things that isn't really as necessary. Like, having kind of ground pounding kind of vehicles isn't really as necessary when you have like these.
Well, in this age of airstrikes and drone warfare, tanks are becoming a little redundant.
Yeah, I mean they're still useful. Don't get me wrong, but the actual kind of use for them has depleted somewhat compared to how it was in World War II and in fact World War One when tanks literally turned the tide of the war.
Yeah.
Yeah, back when planes were much more limited in their capacity.
Back when planes were
they were only good for dropping gravity propelled bombs or shooting down other planes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Swordfish was incredible.
Because ballistic missiles didn't exist back then.
I mean, they were mostly used for reconnaissance to start off with, didn't they? And then they basically started putting weapons on there to try and take down other reconnaissance planes.
Yeah, exactly. That was First World War. Second World War, it was more about bombing runs and things like that. But back then it was all just leaving it to the luck of gravity because ballistic missiles didn't exist back then.
Although that does remind me, what Starlight just said does remind me of one of the stories that I remember hearing about early kind of dogfighting, and I'm sure that TikTok knows.
Yeah,
they basically kind of whenever they kind of flew past each other, they'd start by just swearing at each other, basically in their own
then before they had
just gesturing.
guns, they were throwing bricks and rocks.
Yeah, and then eventually they got a gun, and so they shoot pistols at each other and stuff like that. And then eventually they put guns on the actual planes, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is much easier."
Yeah.
Instead of throwing their crusty old bread out the flipping plane at the other.
That's probably what the French pilots did.
The French just.
Well, never mind bricks or stale bread or anything. The only thing that the French pilots ever carried on board was a white flag.
And there go all our French listeners. What is it?
No. Yeah, au revoir. I was going to say that. Don't mean au revoir.
All our French listeners. We've only already alienated the Russian listeners, the Japanese listeners, and the German listeners.
And the American ones, I think. Did we say something about the Americans at one point? I can't remember.
We've probably said something about all of them.
We really are just turning into Top Gear at this point.
Yeah, all we need to say now is something about the British.
Hey, we already have.
The greatest podcast in the world. There we go. We are now officially Top Gear. It's done, you guys. The pact is complete.
So basically,
all we need to do, all one of us needs to do now, is punch somebody over a cold steak, and then we can move on. Move this podcast to Amazon.
Yeah. So guys, what have you actually got around to that you haven't actually,
to do or haven't had the drive to do before?
Yeah. Well, I mean. One of the things.
I've finally been pushing forward on some of these robots that I've been meaning to do for ages. I mean, I'm not going to give away the name for it in case this podcast comes out before it's finished. But there is a new small one that I've been working on, just fixing up the middle weight. And I mean, I know you mentioned about Blue Moon and.
Well, I did do some work on Blue Moon before. Yeah. Well, when we had that cancelled event, because it was a cancelled event we were preparing for, and we basically spent most of the day fixing things out, and we tried a new weapon controller for. Yeah. Because we had one that kind of failed as at the previous event, and we actually managed to get that working. So it's close to being complete. So when we actually are allowed to go back down to my dad's workshop, I can actually do some work on it.
I should point out for the viewers, we do have a bit of a tendency to make MLP-based combat robots. I was actually the very first one to do it by building a 30-pound featherweight by the name of Mecha Sombra way back in, I think, 2013, I think it was.
It was when Book
was.
The
first MLP-based combat robot.
It was...
And then,
well, if you remember, me and you basically ended up taking that damn thing. Well, you took Fervor.
I sold you the original Mecha Sombra. You turned it into another robot called Solar Flare that was Celestia-based.
Well, technically Daybreaker-based, basically.
Yeah, Daybreaker-based. Then you built Blue Moon, which was Lunar-based. Meanwhile, I went ahead and built Fervor, which was Changeling-based, and then more recently Tantabus as well.
Well, to be fair... Well, to be fair, the Solar Flare could be Celestia or Daybreaker, to be honest. It's definitely inspired by those two characters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are other MLP combat robots. I mean, somebody else built a small one not long after I did that was an actual combat robot edition of Sweetie Bot.
Well, didn't we? Well, if you remember,
missile.
No, not complete with missiles, but. And then more recently, if any of you viewers in America or the UK or whatever, if any of you watched the rebooted series BattleBots on Discovery, there was a Russian team of bronies that entered the most recent series with their robot Rainbow, and they were a brony team.
Yeah, well, they were originally going to call it MLP initially, or
no, they were going to call
it Pinkie Pie, yeah,
originally, but then they ran into some copyright issues. Even though BattleBots is broadcast by Discovery, the same network that broadcast MLP, apparently they weren't allowed to use it, so they had to change it to a more generic name of Rainbow. But they still showed up to the event in unicorn onesies, so that's a win in my book.
The thing is, when we took it was Fervor and Becca's on.
We went to an event. We went to a live event. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not referring to live event. I'm referring to when we took it to the last book.
Oh yeah. We took it to we took it to a Brony UK convention 2016, and with the two robots we had at the time, Mecha Sombra and Fervor, and we had a live reveal of Fervor on the actual day, and it was immensely popular. That panel we hosted.
Oh God, yeah! Because guess this, right?
Had no idea so many people were going to come to this panel. It was amazing.
What was funny about that was I'd been to the musicians panel before that, and it wasn't as popular as our panel. And also, I think we may have pissed them off slightly because they had their their merchandise store was basically blocked by our line. Yeah, because I just distinctly remember it as I was helping moving the two things, because I had to basically keep guard of them while you were setting up the laptop and things.
Yeah, we had so many audio.
And I just remember, how hard it was getting that damn solar flare up to Manchester, because I had to take it up on the train, and to make things worse, when I was just...
The trolley collapsed.
Yeah, but it wasn't just the trolley collapsed. It collapsed as I was entering the car park of the hotel, and you two were looking out.
Mecha Sombra at the time. That wasn't Solar Flare. It was still Mecha Sombra.
Well, yeah, it's still Mecha. Yeah, you're right, Mecha Sombra. But basically, the trolley collapsed, and we had to go to the Trafford Centre in Manchester to go around and actually.
We were able to get an Uber to stash it into.
Oh God, the amount of Ubers we got that bloody weekend was ridiculous.
Yeah, we completely broke ourselves of money.
Well, to be fair, I think if anyone can have claim to that, I think, it's not me or you. I had just enough money for a train journey home from that convention. At least you had
to go with. I had to go on no money at all,
mate,
until I paid the following week.
Mate, can I just say, I had to actually help out one of the mates into, back home. I ended up waiting behind for. I take it you're okay with me saying this, and then.
Skybound, yeah.
Skybound, yeah. Basically, I ended up having to help Skybound. I
think we've all said our real names at
Well, yes, of course.
Probably.
Yeah, but the point.
Consistency, damn it.
Okay, fair enough. But the point I'm getting at is I had to have. And to be honest, I think more of it was because you were absolutely knackered from volunteering at that event.
We should mention Skybound was actually staff at that convention, so
yeah,
he had to be one of the last people to.
It was probably one of the most exhausting things I did. I cannot count how many tables I had to carry across various.
But on the plus side,
I have PTSD when I see tables at this point.
Dude, if you
never ever go to a restaurant.
Can I just say, when you come to, let's just put it this way. I have also helped out with conventions, and I've helped out being a VA on. I won't mention any names, but basically, volunteering at a convention is knackering.
You got lucky enough to chaperone a VA for the show. We won't say who, but
it was still knackering.
At that book as well. You two both got to meet Peter New face to face. I did.
I didn't.
Did you were staff? I thought you met.
No, I only managed.
Steward. I was just floor staff. I wasn't.
I managed to do it only because I happened to go to one of the signing things.
I mean, still, at least at BronyCon we managed to make it into one of Claire Corlett's vlogs. So
oh God, yes, that was interesting as well. So yeah, I mean, as you say, conventions aside, I mean, I can't wait until UK BronyCon later on this year, because it should still be going on because it's later on. I mean, Griffish Isles, like the successor to book, has actually decided to postpone it until later this year. So basically, the reason they've done that is because they thought that certain airlines are only willing to
that's true.
Willing to move their.
You have to remember, America sort of picked up on this crisis a little later than Europe did, so they're probably not going to be back to normal till later.
Well, that's a good point actually. But I do know that Griffish Isles will be running their convention at, I think it's in November. Yeah, it's after UK
Well,
Comic-Con.
hopefully by then things will be back more, or at least semi-normal.
Yeah, so basically the two conventions I'm going to this year are basically UK PC and Griffiths House, because the UK PC is in October. And
I have no money, cannot do it.
Yeah, I understand, mate. I fully understand.
Spent all on robots.
To be honest, I've got a nice bonus from February that I still haven't spent, so I can actually use money to move off of that.
Well, hopefully by the time this lockdown is over, I can finally get my new middleweight finished, and I can finally actually show what it's worth. I've been waiting for a year to debut that.
Yeah, no, mate. I can't wait to see it myself.
Say, though, one of the advantages of of this lockdown, and it's weird saying that, but
there are advantages. There are advantages.
One of the advantages is I've not had to spend as much on stuff.
Same.
Well, that's true. A lot of people say, "Oh, wow, you're having to spend more stuff on food or whatever." You don't necessarily spend any more than you usually do, and if nothing else, certainly one thing I've noticed, obviously, we're not going anywhere outside of the house other than for work.
Yeah.
Not
eating out. Not buying lunch at lunchtime.
I don't buy lunch at lunchtime. I make my own lunch.
Because I should point out for the viewers, I live about 200. I live something like 100 miles away from these guys, and I cannot tell you how much money that has saved me in fuel, in gas, not being able to do that anymore. It's cut my gas budget for the month in half.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at my bank account now, and you're right. Yeah, it's made one hell of a difference, because I haven't.
Anyway, I should point out, I think we've been going at this for about 40 minutes now, so we may want to wrap up before too much.
Well, why don't we wrap it up with something like? I mean, we've talked about the benefits. I mean, we have actually had some advantages to this. I mean, the biggest one is that we finally got around to doing this, because we've never had. Yeah. That's the biggest thing for me, because we've been trying to do this for flipping years, and we've actually got around to doing it for once. I mean, one thing I have noticed though about this lockdown is it has brought a lot of more people together. Because I've been.
Ironic.
It really is ironically, but it's true, because at least in my group of friends, I think I've been in contact with more people over the last couple of months. I do not feel. I don't feel like I feel lonely, because I'm always in contact with people. Like, I've got several folks. I spent pretty much the whole of Friday. I think it was Friday, basically watching, rewatching them MLP seasons back with Miles, one of my mates who's only just started watching MLP, and we've actually managed to do some recordings. Of his reactions. I mean, okay, it wasn't a face cam reaction, but it was at least you could hear what he was really saying, and we're using a similar method that we're using now here with OBS Studio, and so it's things like that. I wouldn't have normally, I think it has helped people come together a lot more, and I think.
Absolutely. This is the kind of wartime spirit that helps people get through it.
Yeah.
It's what it is. It's wartime spirit. This is what it is.
Yeah. One of the things I will say, and maybe this is a good thing to sign off on, is maybe the true coronavirus was the friends we made along the way.
Oh, for God's sake, that is ridiculous. Okay, have you actually? Okay.
Thank you very much, Princess Twilight.
Oh, for God's sake, Jesus Christ! Okay, we need to end this on memes. Come on, guys, have you seen any decent memes throughout this coronavirus? What was your favourite one?
Yeah, there are too many to count. I'm sorry, I'm not all of them because
that bitch Carol Baskin.
What?
That's the only meme I know that's come out recently, and it's from that Tiger King show or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
The what King?
Carol Baskin.
Who's Tiger?
Okay. I tell you what. No, at a time of crisis like this, maybe a good way to sign off. I mean, I should say, listeners, we didn't plan a huge amount of specifically what we were going to say in advance here. So
I won't. Well, yeah, because
maybe a good note to sign off on.
I have something.
If each of us gives maybe a little motivational message to the listeners.
Well, I think to be fair, the first thing I'm going to say is that I think it's I think if there's anyone you know who's basically living on their own, contact them because they're probably going to be struggling through this time, and you never know, they may actually help you feel better about the current situation as well. Because I have to admit, I'm in somewhat of a disadvantage out of this group when it comes to social contact because at least Brendan lives with his pet. Well, are you okay with me? Well, yeah. I mean, Brendan lives with his family basically, and he's basically. I mean, he's got social contact there because he's got other people, and I really don't have that. I mean, at least
neither do I really.
Well, you've got yeah, but you've got your work colleagues, and I know they annoy the hell out of you, but at least you get to physically see another human being. I can go days without seeing another human being, actually without being on a webcam. That's what I'm basically getting at. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not the same as meeting up with someone face to face, but it sure as hell helps because you never know that they, if you're feeling down, it will probably also help as well to contact other people and just chat. Just have a chat like we've just had, where we just caught up and basically talked about silly, pointless crap. But to be fair, but the thing is, I'm just about to say something here though. I say it's silly and pointless, but I don't think it is actually that silly and pointless.
No,
I think
it cheers everyone up.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. I think it may seem like it's silly and pointless, but it's not. It really isn't, because it's things like these really genuine conversations that you have with other people where you basically sit down and just have a chat. I have had nights, even when I've been with people physically, face to face with them, before this coronavirus started, where I've had long chats where I've just spoke, we've just had a conversation like we've just had now, and it's been one of the best times I've ever had. We haven't been doing anything.
I think
we've just been talking to one another. And I think that sort of thing is what I think. It's not so much the physical contact. I think it's just the communication, because hearing another human being's voice.
Honestly, I think the way you can sum this up, I can sum this up in one sentence, in one phrase. It's a phrase I've heard sort of thrown around on the internet quite recently, particularly on TV. There's a phrase that I've seen thrown around a lot that I think it really takes prominence in this kind of time when people might just want someone to talk to, anything like that. And the phrase that I'm trying to live by, and I think everyone out there should try and live by, is be the friend you would want.
Yeah. I think, to be fair, that is. I think also, if you can help make someone's life just a little bit better, it doesn't matter if it's something significant.
Whether it's something simple, just a call, a text, a tweet, whatever.
It will make things.
Be the friend that you would want.
The thing is, if you've got lots of things going on in your life, and or someone else has got lots of things going on in your life, it may not seem like much helping out the simplest thing. But what you got to remember is that's one less thing to interact with all those other issues they're having, exactly. And it's also one less.
A simple text.
I'm not just talking about a simple text.
To make somebody feel like all you got to do is just let somebody know that you're there, and let someone know that you still care about them.
Well, the sort of thing I was more going along the lines of is, when it comes to when you've got a set of problems to solve, it's a bit like if the biggest if you've got a whole load of set of problems to solve, sometimes solving the simplest one actually helps with all the other ones, because it's at least one less problem you need to solve. And if the problem is social interaction, then just contacting someone else will help out with that, because that's one of the simplest things you can do in a crisis like this, because it is something that is really simple to do. And it will solve this. Well, it's not a simple problem, but it is at least a simpler problem than solving all the other things to solve, which is basically giving someone some social contact and letting them know that they are thinking about you at least. Because
absolutely.
Because to be honest,
Skybound.
No.
Sorry. I was going to say.
I think
Skybound have any conversational messages?
I think the point about obviously social contact with other people is an important one, and it's been reiterated quite a few times now, just at the end of this little podcast here. But I'm going to go for a different tact with this little motivational message at the end, because ultimately we're in a very different situation from our normal day-to-day life. We've sort of hit a reset button in a way. It's kind of the whole have you tried turning it off then turning it back on again kind of thing, with except we're doing it with
I just want 100 quid.
Wait, what?
Lovely.
Wait, what?
It's an IT crowd reference.
Oh, right, okay. But anyway, that aside, there's a unique opportunity that you have at this point in time while you're kind of limited in your options in what you can do. You're stuck inside. So why not make use of that extra time, that time where you might be commuting, where you might be, where you might just be doing things outside, hanging out with friends, things like that. You can use that time that you've got back, that you've been given back by these unique circumstances, to improve yourself.
Yeah, I've been trying to do the same.
It doesn't just have to be. It doesn't just have to be exercise. It
Well,
doesn't have to be.
just
It doesn't really have. It doesn't have to be getting fitter. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It can just be learning a new skill set. It can be learning a new language. It can be just kind of assessing where some of your flaws are and perhaps trying to improve them in some way.
I think
You've got the time, so why not just... And I'm going to steal a quote from Shia LaBeouf here.
oh, for God's sake, just do it.
Why don't you just do it?
That's not a quote from Shia LaBeouf, right?
No, it's from Nike.
I'm sorry. David Tennant got there first.
But I agree with you,
I'm sure the phrase "just do it."
Yeah, I don't think it matters who said the same. What I'm saying, I do agree with what Skybound's just said, because I've been trying to pick up doing all sorts of things. I've been trying to get back into gaming. I've been trying to get back into doing art. I am planning on doing some language stuff at some point. There are some things I definitely want to pick up, and I just haven't. And I've been wanting to do this for a while, and it's like I've been given the opportunity to do it. So I probably hasn't been. My problem hasn't been the wanting, to do all the stuff you're doing, because to me that was just a natural sort of conclusion I came to. But yes, I do fully agree with what you're saying there. But the social contact thing is also another aspect of it. That's why I was focusing on that.
I would almost say that essentially it's kind of the procrastinator's worst nightmare, this lockdown.
Oh, it is.
One of the things that I've always sort of said is that when I actually get some spare time, I'm going to learn a new language. When I get some spare time, I'm going to actually start running, or I'm going to start doing weight training and stuff like that. And now I've got no choice. It's like, wait, shit. Now I do have all this spare time, and I can't really go out and do things that are like I can't just put it off with something else.
I know I'm a serial procrastinator. As I know full well, the inclination is to just decide, I still don't know if I want to do that. So you end up just sitting there, fucking around on the internet for hours and hours and hours and watching TV, and next thing you know, it's 11 p.m. and you want to go to sleep again.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I've had days even when I've been in this lockdown where I've had like that. But I think the biggest reason for that is because I'm all.
Oh, I've only been off work. I've only been off work for 3 days at this point over the Easter break, and I've already been like that.
Well, the thing is though, the reason why I think I ended up doing that was because. My biggest issue is I actually always am trying to get stuff done, and I think I just needed a break, because I think this is one of the reasons why we had such a long time before releasing something on the channel, because I just needed a break. Because
I think in my case it was more psychological of the procrastinator thing, because I've got the next week off work. I had that next week booked off work for a long time. And I've, for the last couple of days, been avoiding doing any particular jobs I wanted to be doing on the basis that I didn't want to run out of things to do before I went back to work.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is you don't know how long a job's going to do. You don't know how long it's going to take you to do
it. But I decided, you know what, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway.
Well,
I'm sure I'll find more stuff to do once I've been doing that. It'll give me inspiration to do something else.
Exactly.
Like this podcast, for example.
Yeah, I mean, this is the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, because to be honest, I wanted to put something on the channel, and I wanted to look at the simplest way I could do that, because as I said earlier, by trying to focus on the simplest thing I can fix, it makes it easier to fix the other stuff because it's one less thing I'm having to focus on. So this is why I wanted to get this recorded, because I thought we wanted to at least get something out there to let the people know that the channel isn't dead, essentially. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get this out. And it was the simplest thing we could do just to let people know.
But I do think we have gone on long enough, so I think now would be an ideal time to kind of sign off.
Oh, God, yeah, because this is... Yeah.
Well, I was
going
to say, if I may, Starlight, Skybound, you both had yours. If I may just have the honours of signing off on with my motivational...
Yeah, go on.
Go ahead.
I'll try and keep it concise.
You've got 4 minutes, mate.
Okay. All I can say is, I think everybody is probably feeling the squeeze right now. Everybody is feeling a little bit weird, a bit isolated, a bit uncertain about the way things are going to come. All I can say is that, just follow the advice you've been given. Just try and get through it and, keep your spirits up. Talk to people you haven't talked to in a while. Do things you've been thinking about doing for a while. Just any little thing like that can help to boost your mood. Just get into that spirit, get into that community spirit. Talk to a neighbour. I mean, from a safe distance, but talk to your neighbours that you might not have talked to in a long time or barely known about before. Get out there and, crucially, get a bit of sunlight. I know some people will be tempted to take this a little bit too far and shut themselves into their house all day long. You still want to get some sunlight and some fresh air, because that can do you an absolute world of good. I know this from experience. Having had depression, having had anxiety, a bit of fresh air can do you an absolute world of good.
Oh, hell yeah.
The power of vitamin D is extremely powerful.
I'm not...
Especially going into summer, it is the best thing you can do. Don't do anything stupid. Don't go wandering around for no reason.
Don't go sunbathing.
Well, the thing is, I haven't actually made a habit of doing that.
Something as simple as just go out to the front of your house for a while. Go out into your garden. Just
go for a walk.
Just do something that stops you getting cooped up in your house, because it's not just good for you physically, it's good for you mentally as well. But
I can confirm this.
The most important thing, just to round off, whatever motivational bullshit I've managed to drum up out of
best motivational bullshit.
Just to round off, all I will say is the most important bit of advice that I can give any of you out there that are still listening after all this time, and for which we are eternally grateful.
Dear God, if you made it to this point, how the hell have you managed that?
Editing, probably.
Hey, Dan's going to do the editing for this, isn't he?
But yeah, just as a message, just as a final little word for all you guys out there. Wash your damn hands!
Okay, that's my headphone.
If that hasn't you may have peaked the bloody recording software as well, thinking about it.
Sorry, I had to say it at some point. I wanted to make it as clear as possible.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But
20 seconds, sing happy birthday, or whatever 20 seconds.
Yeah, can I just...
I personally go for the chorus of Ghost Division by Sabaton, but you can do whatever you...
you and your fucking Sabaton.
Sounds of silence for me, actually. I think that's about 20 seconds. Anyway, I can just say that I do agree with the whole going outside thing, by the way, because I've done that a lot, because I've got outdoors now, and every lunchtime I go out there. Well, for us in the UK, by and large, it's been gorgeous weather these last few days. All week, in fact. I mean, it's unseasonably good for this time of year. Yeah. Well, anyway,
before we go full British and start chatting about the weather for the next 2 hours, I think we should end this.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I am going to.
So yeah. This was the very first Dark Matter Marshmallows GeekCast. You can be sure there is more coming away very soon.
Oh yes, we're gonna. Oh, by the way, if there's anything you guys would like us to essentially subject to talk about, if there's anything you want us to basically cover as a subject, or anything you want us to react to, because we still want to do that, even if we're gonna have to
Leave it in the comments.
Yeah, just leave it in the comments, because we seriously want to help.
Yeah, we'd love to hear talk from you guys, things that we want to talk about. I mean, try not to get things political or anything.
No, we don't want to do things political, for God's sake, because if we end up having Ray on here, dear God help us. We are not basically going down a political route, but it's about basically the sort of things we would want to talk about.
Geeky topics, weeb topics.
Basically tech, fandoms, internet culture.
Topics!
Yes, weeb topics. Like, fandoms do include weebdom, by the way, I should point out. Unfortunately,
Weebdom, is that the official word?
Well, Bronydom as well is the Brony fandom, and Furrydom is the furry fandom, so yes.
It sounds like we're saying in Anthology, Rule 1, all subjects are valid. Rule 2, no anime.
I honestly thought that the actual word for weebdom, as you call it, as you called it, Starlight, is degeneracy.
Isn't that just any internet culture at all, including Bronium and Furrydom and Animatum? Isn't it just...
We're getting off topic again.
Off topic, but yeah, let's sign this off then. Let's sign this off right now.
Right, okay.
Long story short, if any of you listeners that are still out there, God bless you for a start. But any subjects you want us to talk about in future podcasts, I'm sure we will try and do this maybe in a week or two. And just give us any suggestions of stuff to talk about in the comments below, and we'll be absolutely happy to consider talking about them.
Yeah.
If you'll excuse me, sorry, I had a couple of drinks during this podcast, and it's just starting to get to my head a little bit. So
yeah, okay, fair enough. Anyway,
from all of us here, this has been the first ever Dark Matter Marshmallows GeekCast. If you want to sign us off, Starlight Flux. And,
okay, I'm Starlight Flux.
I'm Skybound.
So we couldn't hear you.
Say that again, Skybound.
Skybound.
And I'm Tip Top.
Right. Okay, see you next time, guys.
We will see you. See you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.